The immune system. The immune system's overall function is to prevent or limit infections. This is why immunocompromised people, people with genetic disorders, and even pregnant women have a greater chance of getting infected by microbes that would not infect people with healthy immune systems. The immune system has the ability to differentiate healthy versus unhealthy cells. It uses dangerous associated molecular patterns, or DAMPs, to tell apart healthy and unhealthy cells. Pathogens send out signals that the immune system recognizes as pathogens, associated molecular patterns, or PUMPs, which prompt the immune system to quickly respond. However, if a response cannot be made, an infection occurs. Next, we'll be talking about the major parts of the immune system. Immune cells can be found on or within the skin, bone marrow, bloodstream, spleen, mucosal tissue, and the lymphatic system. The skin. This is the largest organ of the human body. The skin or epidermis is used as the first line of defense against these pathogens. The skin produces antimicrobial proteins to fight microbes. Microbes cannot enter the skin unless there is an opening. So, in this picture, the boy's skin will obviously be his epidermis, the outer layer. The bone marrow and bloodstream. So, the bone marrow is a spongy tissue with certain bones like the hip and thigh. The bone marrow is within certain bones. It contains immature cells called stem cells that later develop into different cells. All immune cells come from precursors in the bone marrow, so it is a really important part of the immune system. In the bloodstream, immune cells continuously circulate the bloodstream looking for problems. Mucosal tissue. Mucosal surfaces such as the respiratory tract and stomach are primary entry points for pathogens. Specialized immune hubs are located on these surfaces to help defend against pathogens. As you can see in this picture, this is the Mucinex guy. He is a big mucus that always tries to come in and mess things up. The lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is a network of vessels and tissues composed of lymphs and extracurricular fluid. It contains organs such as the thymus, glands, and lymph nodes. The lymphatic system allows for the travel and communication between tissues in the bloodstream. Lymph nodes. Immune cells are constantly carried throughout the lymphatic system and meet up at the lymph nodes. A lymph node is a communication hub where immune cells sample information brought in from the body. For example, if a sample cell enters the lymph node that has recognized pieces of a microbe, the immune cells will activate, replicate, and address the pathogen. Doctors check for swollen lymph nodes to see if there is any active immune responses going on in the body. Thymus and the spleen. Oh, no. Oh, wait, yes, it is. The thymus is a lymphoid organ located in the upper chest that produces T cells. The spleen, located behind the stomach, helps process the information from the bloodstream. In the spleen, immune cells are enriched and activated with bloodborne pathogens are recognized. And from this picture, you can clearly see where the thymus and spleen are located and other major organs of the lymphatic system. Immunoresponses. Immunoresponses are typically divided into two categories, innate and adaptive. So innate immunity occurs immediately when a problem is recognized. Innate cells have encoded receptors called toll-like receptors, or TLRs. TLRs recognize pathogens, however, they are unable to distinguish between strains of viruses and bacteria. Innate cells are able to respond quickly and broadly to problems. This typically leads to inflammation, and disorders in innate cells may cause chronic susceptibility to infection. Innate cells are also important for activating adaptive immunity. So, what is adaptive immunity? Adaptive immunity occurs later because it relies on coordination and expansion of specific specialized adaptive cells. Adaptive cells carry unique receptors that recognize specific signals rather than general trends. Each receptor recognizes antigens that come from pathogens, host cells, and allergens, and are processed by innate cells and brought to adaptive immune cells in the lymph nodes. If adaptive cells recognize a problem, they activate, divide, and address the problem. Innate and adaptive cells. There are 5 common types of white blood cells: neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, monocytes, and lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are considered adaptive cells, while the other cells are innate cells. Innate cells, which are the eosinophils, basophils, and neutrophils. Eosinophils and basophils act as a host defense against parasites and also involved in allergic reactions. Neutrophils are the most numerous innate cells in the body. They circulate the bloodstream looking for problems, and they can ingest bacteria and degrade them in their vesicles. This process is called phagocytosis. Other types of innate cells are mast cells that are very similar to basophils. They are found in tissues and defend against parasites, and they also release histamines that are mediate allergic reactions. These are the monocytes and the macrophages. Monocytes are predecessors of macrophages, and these are found in blood. They are found in the bloodstream and tissues. These cells patrol and respond to problems. Macrophages are able to ingest and degrade bacteria and also aid in recycling dead cells. The dendritic cells. These cells act as antigens-presenting cells. DC, dendritic cells, also develop from monocytes. Adaptive immune cells. There are 2 types of adaptive immune cells: T cells and B cells. B cells make antibodies to neutralize pathogens, and T cells kill infected cells and activate or recruit other immune cells. Adaptive immunity cells also have a system of checks and balances that prevent the cells from harming the host. These cells also have an immune memory that retains pathogens to memory that is ready to activate if the same pathogen enters the body. Natural killer cells. Natural killer cells are both innate and adaptive immune cells. They recognize and kill viruses, infected cells, or tumor cells. These are the white blood cells: the neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, monocyte, T cells, B cells, natural killer, and macrophage. The lines of defenses. There are typically 3 types of lines of defense. The first line of defense is the skin, then the nose, eyes, and mouth. Mucus. This is composed of mucus, tears, and saliva, and these contain enzymes that are able to break through the cell wall of bacteria. Those that are not killed and trapped in mucus are swallowed. The inner lining of the stomach and lungs also have mucus to protect from pathogens. Cilia. They are very fine hairs that protect the windpipe and use mucus to shoot away pathogens away from the lungs. Second line of defense is the non-specific innate immunity response, and this is phagocytic leukocytes. These include innate cells such as monocytes, macrophages, and neutrophils, antimicrobial proteins, inflammatory responses, and fever. And the third line of defense would be the lymphocytes, antibodies, and memory cells. Now we're going to look into some outbreaks and global disease transmission that affect the immune system. So a disease outbreak happens when a disease occurs in a greater number than expected in a community or region during a season. Any outbreak may occur in one community or even extend to several countries. It can last from days to years. So, transmission occurs when you touch your mouth, nose, or eyes before thoroughly washing your hands, or you have animal-to-person contact. Disease transmission can be direct or indirect. Direct transmission includes person-to-person contact. Indirect transmission occurs when an infected person touches or exchanges body fluids with someone else, i.e., maybe sexually transmitted diseases. And there are droplet spread, which is the spray of droplets during coughing or sneezing. This can also spread to an infectious disease. Indirect transmission includes airborne transmission. Some infectious agents can travel long distances and remain suspended in the air for an extended period of time. You can catch a disease like measles by entering a room after someone with measles has departed. If you touch a contaminated object such as a doorknob or a window or a pencil, you also may be exposed to this infection. An animal to person transmission occurs when an infected animal bites or scratches you when you handle the animal or the animal's waste. This is some historic epidemics or pandemics. The first one, HIV/AIDS pandemic from 2005 to really 2012, and still currently. It killed 36 million people. This was first identified in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in 1976. HIV/AIDS has proven itself as a global pandemic and killing more than 36 million people since 1981. There have been 31 and 35 million people living with HIV, and the vast majority of those are in sub-Saharan Africa, where 5% of the population is infected, roughly 21 million people. As awareness has grown, treatments have been developed to make HIV far more manageable, like help with living with it. And many of those infected go on to lead productive lives. Between 2005 and 2012, the annual global deaths from HIV/AIDS dropped from 2.5 million to 1.6. The flu pandemic of 1968. The death toll was 1 million. This was a Category 2 flu pandemic that was referred to as the Hong Kong flu. The 1968 flu pandemic was caused by the H3N2 strain of the influenza A virus, a genetic offshoot of the H2N2 subtype. From the first reported case on July 13, 1968, it took only 17 days before outbreaks of the virus were reported in Singapore and Vietnam. And within 3 months, it spread to the Philippines, India, Australia, Europe, and the United States. While the 1968 pandemic had a comparatively low mortality rate, it has still resulted in the deaths of more than 1 million people, including 500,000 residents of Hong Kong. That's approximately 15% of the population. Hospitals were so crowded that they had to have their beds this close to each other, and this doesn't really help with containing the virus. The Asian flu. In 1956 to 1958, the death toll was 2 million. The Asian flu was a pandemic outbreak of influenza A of the H2N2 subtype, and this originated in China in 1956, and it lasted until 1958. In its 2-year lifespan, it traveled from the Chinese province of Guangzhou to Singapore, Hong Kong, and the United States. Estimates for the death toll of Asian flu vary depending on the source, but the World Health Organization says that the final tally was at approximately 2 million deaths, 69,000 of those in the U.S. alone. The cholera pandemic of 1852 to 1860. This pandemic was the most deadly of the cholera pandemics throughout the history. There was like 6 of them. This pandemic originated from India and spread through the Ganges River Delta and ended the lives of over 1 million people. The bubonic plague, or the Black Death, from 1346 to 1353. It killed about 75 to 200 million people. From this outbreak of the plague ravaged Europe, Africa, and Asia with an estimated death toll between 75 and 200 million people. Thought to have originated in Asia, the plague most likely jumped continents via fleas living on rats that so frequently lived around merchant ships. Ports being major urban cities at the time were perfect breeding grounds for this, and thus the insidious bacterium flora is devastating 3 continents in its wake. So now we're going to get into some vaccinations. So how do vaccinations work? Vaccinations train the immune system against specific pathogens. They help develop immunity by imitating an infection. It doesn't cause the illness, but it